Hi there, this is Teri from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is this beautiful card. It's a shaped gatefold card with a belly band. I used the beautiful Good Morning Magnolia stamp set for the main image and papers from the In Colour 2019-2021 6-inch stack. The sentiment is from Magnolia Blooms, and I've shaped the top and the bottom edges of the card using one of the Magnolia memory dies. It makes for a very special card. So let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for the various elements required to create this project. So if you're interested in reproducing it, you can take a screenshot and refer to it later. I have half a sheet of Rococo Rose cardstock that I'm going to use as my card base. Now I need to create a gatefold card. Because my base card is A4, I've added the metric plate to the top of my Simply scoreboard. I'm going to score down from each side at 5.25 centimeters, and there's a special mark on the metric plate that enables you to do this. Now if your base card is 8.5 by 11, you want to score in from each side at 2 1/8 of an inch. I can now fold on the score lines and burnish with my bone folder, but I just want to ensure that there's no gap in the middle where the two ends are supposed to join. So if there is, just adjust your score lines as necessary to make sure those two edges come together. You want to add a piece of low-tack adhesive tape or washi tape to your card to keep those edges together. It will make it easier to cut them. Now these are the Magnolia memory dies. I'm going to use the large Magnolia die later on, but to shape my card I'm going to use this edged die. Now the die will cut through both layers of cardstock at the same time, so this makes it a little easier to shape the card. I'm just using my grid paper to line up the die on the edge of the card. Now you want to make sure the points and the curves on the die are just under the top edge of the card. And then you want to make sure the overhang on each side is the same for each side. And then once you're happy, secure the die to the cardstock using more tape. I'm now going to run this through my Big Shot, and it's a normal thin die sandwich, so the platform, thin die adapter, acrylic plate, then the cardstock with my die on top, and then my top plate. Now I've positioned my cardstock to the back end of that acrylic plate, and I've done this so I can support the top plate because I'm not going to have it going all the way across. I want my plate edge, the back end edge, to be positioned just slightly above the bottom edge of that die. If you have it positioned any lower, then the bottom edge of the die will be embossed into the cardstock, and I don't want that. So just position it a little above that bottom edge, and then you can run it through. And the die cutting machine will stop cutting or embossing as soon as it falls off the back end of that acrylic plate. And then we want to repeat for the other edge. Now I would normally align the die on my grid paper again, but as that is underneath my Big Shot, I'll just do it on the plate, and it can be done. Just be careful that you get everything even again, and the curves and the points just under that top edge of the cardstock, and then run it through. Then you can remove the washi tape and you can see your gorgeous card. I love the shape this gives you. Now, you would have seen from the measurement screen that you need a white mat for inside your card and some designer series paper for your two front panels. Now, these are both the same size. You want to shape them in exactly the same way as you did for your card base. And this is what they should look like. You could run the paper and the white card through together if you wanted to. This is the Magnolia Bloom stamp set, and I'm just going to use the Happy Birthday sentiment. And I'm going to stamp this in the centre of the mat that will go inside the card. My stamp is already positioned, and I'm going to use Pretty Peacock ink and just stamp it down. Now this is the Good Morning Magnolia stamp set. It's a double case set. I'm going to use this blossom, and later on I'll use the big image. Now I'm going to position the little blossom in the bottom left corner, and I'm going to stamp this with Memento Tuxedo black ink because I want to colour it later using the Stampin' Blends alcohol markers. So I can stamp it down once in that corner, then turn my cardstock around and stamp it again. So that will be top right. I'm now going to stamp the large Magnolia image, and I'm just prepping some cardstock vellum here with my embossing buddy to make sure there's no static on it. And then I'm going to use Versamark ink to stamp my image, and I'll stamp this twice just to ensure that I get a really good impression. Then I can cover the image with white embossing powder and then melt it with my heat gun. And once it's ready, I'll die cut this using the coordinating Magnolia memory die. And this is how it will look once done. Now I'm going to colour using the Stampin' Blends alcohol markers, but I'm going to colour on the reverse. I'll be using Granny Apple Green for the leaves, Pretty Peacock for the petals, Soft Suede for the stem, and just a little dark pumpkin pie for the centre of the blossom. I've speeded up this colouring quite a bit. I don't want to bore you too much with it. But basically all I'm going to do is, starting with the leaves and the light Granny Apple Green, I'm going to lay down one coat all over the backs of the leaves. Then I'll switch to the dark Granny Apple Green and just add a little depth of colour. And I'll do this just by going over the veins on the leaves, just so the dark shows either side of all the veins. And it's just very rough. It's not really possible to blend the colours when you're using vellum. So all I'm going to do to finish them off is switch back to my light Granny Apple Green and just give it another coat over the top of everything. And this will help get rid of any of those harsh lines. Then if I flip it over and put some white underneath, you'll be able to see the effect you get. It's a much more muted colour that you see through the vellum, so you lose a lot of that brightness. It's a similar three-step process for the flower as well. I'm starting with the light Pretty Peacock and I'm adding this first. I'm not going to cover all of the petals. I want some of it to remain just clear, just the vellum. So I'm laying down the colour towards the base of each petal, and once I've done that I'll add some of the dark Pretty Peacock, but I won't take this up as far as I took the light, so you've got a little contrast there. And then finally, I'll switch back to the light Pretty Peacock and just go over everything once again, just to blend it as much as I can. And this is how it looks once that's done. Finally, I can add my soft suede to the stem and my pumpkin pie to the centre of the flower. I'm also going to colour the two blossoms on the inside mat, and I'm using the same colours here. So Granny Apple Green for the leaves, light and dark, and then Pretty Peacock for the flower itself. Now I'm going to do something just a little bit different with this. I've added the light first of all, and then I'll go in with the dark just to add some depth. My stem will be in soft suede again, and then I'm going to go back in with the light to blend the two tones of Pretty Peacock together, but then I'm going to finish off with the colour lifter, and this will just help blend everything together but also leave a very light blue haze over the white parts of the flower. I'm now going to cut the front layer for the card. Now if you use A4 as your base cardstock, you want to cut this from each side at 4.7 centimetres. If you use 8.5 by 11 inch as your standard card, you want to cut it at 2 inches from each side. I can then add these two panels to the front of the card. Then I can also position the inside mat onto the card. I die cut another of the large blossoms using the same die from Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to add this to the reverse of my vellum flower. And this will help make the colours a little bit more vibrant. You'll be able to see them better. It will also make the flower a little more sturdy, so this will help as it's going on the belly band. I'm adding dimensionals onto the back of this, but only on the flower part of the die cut, not on the leaves, because the leaves will all overhang the belly band. I've cut 2 scallop circles in Pretty Peacock and 1 plain circle in Whisper White, and these are all going to be used for the belly band. The white one will be layered on top of one of the scallop circles. I've used one of the Stitch Shapes dies to create my white circle, and this is the largest one. For the scallop circles, I used the layering circle dies, and again this is the largest. Now if you wanted to, you could cut out the white circle using one of these dies as well. It would have to be the largest plain die. The white circle mat has been embossed using the Country Floral Dynamic folder, and this is absolutely stunning. I didn't realise how lovely it was. I'm going to layer my strip of designer series paper onto the centre of my strip of cardstock. Now ideally you'd want these to be the same length, but this paper only comes in 6x6 sheets, so we have to make do, and it works fine. I'm going to use my grid paper to help me position my belly band, and I put it behind my card, and I'm just ensuring that I've got the same amount either side, and then I can fold the ends over. Now you don't want to make this too tight, you want to keep it fairly loose so it can move on and off easily. Place the scallop circle behind the belly band onto the front of the card. Add your glue onto each end and then press it down onto the scallop circle. And then you can add glue to the other scallop panel and position it on top of the first one so it covers those ends on the belly band. And I think this panel looks just gorgeous. It would look lovely just left as it is, but we're going to add the flower next. You can remove the backings from the dimensionals and then position the flower where you want it over that circular panel. And that's it, the card is now complete. So a very simple design, but really beautiful. I love that shaped edge. And here's another look at my original card. Again, the colours were just reversed on this one. And I used Mossy Meadow to colour the leaves, not Granny Apple Green. Now I have made a couple more. This first one uses Daffodil Delight, Granny Apple Green and Highland Heather. And I changed the inside slightly. Instead of the blossom, I used the little border stamp from that Good Morning Magnolia set, and I think that looks nice too. The paper is from the Retired Gingham Gala pack. And this is my final one, and this is in Calypso Coral, Granny Apple Green again, and Balmy Blue. The paper is again from that Gingham Gala retired pack. And I used the border stamp with this one as well. Now this card is actually a little different to my other three. I've used 8.5 inch by 11 as my base card for this one, and I did it so I could just check the measurements, but you can see the difference in sizes. The US-Canada version is much shorter and just a little bit wider than our standard A4 card. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.